Hey guys, welcome back to another F1 22 My Team Career Mode video where we have created our own team, Barks F1, and taking our Croatian driver, the first Croatian F1 driver in the sport, and trying to climb our way to the top of F1. Last race was in Saudi Arabia. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. And also, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons if you like F1 gaming videos. This week we are in Australia, my home race, technically because I'm Australian, but for my driver it's not the home race. But we're going to say that my allegiance towards Australia is still there. It is me, the driver. I'm just using the Croatian flag to celebrate my surname. So it is a home Grand Prix. We did some upgrades on the car. I went and put on a drag reduction upgrade. Had a lot of trouble along the straights, especially that main straight in Saudi Arabia, to keep up even with the most powerful engine. So a lot of aero work needs to be done, I think, to make the car less draggy. Also did a tire wear upgrade. Can always do with that. Always good to have a tire wear advantage over your opponents. We jumped AlphaTauri in the overall performance rankings, so we are now 7th best car on the grid. Now officially going to Melbourne, we did the Pirelli hot lap time trial thing that you do with the supercars. I would only do these really because it gives me team acclaim, and it's something just to break things up a little bit, but there's just no other purpose really other than to gain the acclaim and the extra bonuses that it gives for your team. So that's kind of the only reason I do them right now, because the team still needs as much as it can get as far as acclaim, to get more sponsors, to get all the different things that you need to start building this team to become a front runner. Got a bronze on that one, I think it was, so it took me 3 attempts. And we are running a special livery for the Australian Grand Prix, for my home Grand Prix, the yellow and green. Oh my god, yellow and green. Green and gold, I should know better than that. Went in and did some time trial laps because there's a lot of reprofiled corners, and just whenever I do a track I want to do a few time trial laps to get the gist with, you know, the layout, and just trying to get my pace up there and get the right setup. And as is with this channel, you guys, I've already explained before, I am trying to get better at this game. I'm not the fastest, definitely not the slowest. Better performance than some of the other tracks. I'm about 3 seconds off the top time on the PlayStation. So we're into practice 1 now and just trying to get through a lot of these programs. I'm doing all these programs, as I've said previously. I'm not going to ever simulate any of them. I want there to be an element of realism to it. So if I do fail some of these things, then that's what happens. I'm only really trying them once or twice. Had issues with my teammate again. Like, no matter what race we seem to be in, he just pops up and gets in the way and doesn't want to give me a hand, even though sometimes he's not even on a lap. So Deletta, super annoying teammate right now. He's not having the best of starts to his career with Barks F1. I finished 2nd overall in practice 1, which was a little bit concerning. Again, with like the AI settings that I have, but that stuff seems to all iron itself out once you get to qualifying. The practice sessions are not a true gauge of where you are. Had a rain affected session in practice 2, and there is a hint that rain is coming for the race, so I wanted to get out there and get a feel for what it would be like to drive this circuit in the rain, practice with the rain setup on the car, and once again, reasonably quick compared to my opponents. But as I said before, that's just no gauge until you really know what's going on once you get in qualifying. Now, looking at the weather, It's rain qualifying, and then it starts off dry and it says it's going to rain in the race. So I ran the wet setup for this, and I also damaged the floor, so I missed a bit of qualifying, but I decided to run the wet setup and take the gamble that it's going to be dry at the beginning, but then when the race gets wet, I'm going to have potentially the superior advantage with the better setup. I've done it in the game before where that's happened to me on a previous version of the game, and everyone chose the dry setup and I had the wet setup, and I was much faster. I just went out and put 5 laps of fuel in, went out and did a few laps, but the best I could do was 18th, and still quicker than my teammate, which is good. And then no rain for the race all of a sudden. That's the risk that you run with running the approximate weather forecast instead of the accurate one, and that's caught me out. So now I am stuck in the race with a wet setup.
Hello and welcome from Melbourne, a track modified since we last raced here in Albert Park, and I think with the changes, it's going to be a classic. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit, 3.28 miles around, with the streets making for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 14 corners around the lake, with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole. And it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Perez, Valtteri Bottas and Gasly, Mick Schumacher, Stroll, Norris and Esteban Ocon, Vettel, Fernando Alonso, George Russell and Albon, Verstappen, Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, the owner driver, Latifi, Alessio Deleda, Magnussen and Guan Yu Zhou. And now it's time to head down to the track. Natalie Pinkham joins me once again in the commentary box. It's fantastic to have you with us today. I'm curious though, how do you think the drivers stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It'll keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
So the strategy that I'm going with for the race is what everyone else is doing, because I've been caught out in the last few races where I have had the hard tire and I haven't been able to stay with everyone. It's just, I think it's not helping me. So I thought I'd just go with what everyone else is going pretty much and try to stick with everyone and make the passes on track.
The formation lap gets underway then, and it's going to be interesting today to see how the dry conditions could affect the lifespan of the tyres. So as all the cars reform the grid, the drivers will be hoping to get a strong start. They'll want to earn some valuable points from today's race, with final communications being done with their race engineers, ensuring their planned strategies are all in place.
So here we go for the Melbourne Grand Prix, my home Grand Prix, and it is 5 lights and we are away. The Ferraris get off very well. I don't, and lose a position to Latifi and my teammate. But as is with every race, and then Magnussen, just trying to stay out of trouble. Trying not to get damaged. I still need to get good at starts and try to prevent any kind of incident. And as I've said, and if you've watched any of the previous videos, you will see I will show you at the end of the race any of the flashbacks that I've used throughout the race, because I still need them, because I just, having not played this game for 10 years, I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm aware of that. Now, the wet setup is really, really hurting me in this part of the track. And, like, look at that. Guan Yu Zhou just blasts straight past me, and they just pull away. I got no pace on these main straights, but where I get them and where it is helping me is through all the aero corners, where it's kind of half on the track. You know, I'm catching them through everything where more aero would be of a benefit. That wet setup that I was running was actually helping me through all the twisty bits around the track, but down the straights, there was just nothing. I couldn't do anything. As you see again, like, I made the pass again on Guan Yu Zhou, or Zhou Guan Yu, and he just comes straight past me, as you'll see in a sec. Like, it's not even a contest. I can't even hold him up. That's not a DRS zone or anything, not that we have DRS yet. But then through this corner, back on the back of him again. Like, it was about finding out where I had the pace on these guys, and basically strategically trying to make passes. And Guan Yu Zhou actually ran into the side of me there, took his part of his wing off, and he had to go into the pits. They have a habit of doing that at this track, as you're going to see again. As I go to make a pass on Latifi, now that was a bit aggressive, but he didn't have to turn in, and he's damaged his wing, so now he's going in. Luckily for me, I didn't get any body damage or floor damage. It was aggressive. I was a fair way deep into the corner, but I'm also there, so turning in is not the best advised option. My teammate has made a move past Kevin Magnussen, and he's doing all right in this race. So far, he's showing a little bit of pace. He's fighting with other drivers and making moves and making passes, so good to see that he's finally getting to grips with racing in F1. He is the cheapest driver I could afford, so we've given that Ferrari power unit that we purchased, but coming along, maybe all those little upgrades that I've been giving him are starting to pay off. Still, the car is quite draggy, so any straights, we don't have the pace, even with the Ferrari power unit, especially when we're going up against another Ferrari power unit. So the Haas easily straight past. And then it was a battle between myself and Alessio for this next position, and I had quite a bit of difficulty getting past him for quite a few laps, and he actually hindered me a lot. Just a quick update on the positions. Charles Leclerc just running his own race up the front with Carlos Sainz. The Ferraris are already 6 seconds clear of third, Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes. Max Verstappen is a fair way down. He had a bad qualifying. I think he may have actually taken a penalty for an engine or something. So he's fighting his way back through the field. Good performance there from Bottas and Mick Schumacher. Also Sebastian Vettel up there in the top 10. Ahead of the Mercedes of George Russell and some of the others. So very solid performances from them. But yeah, the Ferrari's clearly the best car at the moment and doing it quite easily. So this is still lap 5, and like I said, I can get really, really close to my teammate through all the corners, but then down the straights, he's just got it on me. That wet setup is really hindering me. But I feel like, or I felt like through the race that it was really helping me a lot once I got the understanding of where I needed to try and like deploy ERS, which was down this straight, because I just didn't have the pace. Like, that's ERS getting drained and I can't stay with him. But through these corners, I need to be there to be able to make the move into some of these heavy braking zones. This is a battle between Fernando Alonso and George Russell and Sebastian Vettel. And like I said before, Vettel doing really well in that Aston Martin. He did start on the soft tyre, so that was something later once I saw that. I thought maybe that is a strategy to go with. Be really quick and then chuck those hard tyres on to go to the end of the race. So George Russell makes the move on Sebastian Vettel, and then Fernando Alonso is also going to get the move done on Vettel. So that's 2 positions he's lost in a space of maybe 3 corners. And this is when I thought, okay, the softs go off really quick. Plus, probably the Aston Martin isn't the quickest car on the grid. So the rain qualifying probably threw up a bit of different variables. That's why maybe he's up there. But he's also now coming under threat of Max Verstappen. And that Red Bull is going to just blow straight past the Aston Martin, because just cars in a completely different league. Also, if you hadn't noticed yet, the qualifying sessions, I'm only doing a short qualifying session. I'm not doing Q1, Q2, Q3, because I just want to get out there, do the lap, and it is what it is, and that's where we start on the grid. Just as a disclaimer, I haven't mentioned that yet, but if you haven't noticed, yeah, I'm not doing any of the Q1, Q2, Q3. Want to get through this career mode and make sure that we're moving it along, and I think that Q1, Q2, Q3 is a bit time consuming. Charles Leclerc comes in for his pit stop, and that puts Carlos Sainz in the lead of the race temporarily, although because he obviously is going to come in for a pit stop, but it's really a non-event for the Ferraris at the moment. They're just doing their own thing, controlling the race as they wish. Still, 3-4 laps later, I'm still stuck behind my teammate, and you can see this is where he's holding me up. Through here, I'm having to back off through a lot of these corners just not to make any contact with him.
I've got information on Albon for you. Okay, they're slowing down. It seems like there's some kind of problem with their car.
Albon's got a problem, and so does my teammate. It's me. He's now causing me a lot of grief, and team owner and guy with faster car at the moment and doing the quicker pace, he should be getting out the way and not trying to fight me, because there's a group of cars up ahead that I could go in and get amongst, because he's just not able to hold it. He's feeling the pressure, locking up brakes into corners now, and it's just not a very team positive strategy. Lewis Hamilton leads the race now that Sainz is in the pits. He is followed by Sergio Perez, and this is just really the pit stop phase, and everyone's doing their own thing. The Ferraris actually also started on the soft tires, so they're going to be doing slightly earlier pit stops than everyone else. I think the best strategy was the medium to hard, so I just don't feel like the soft was a really good tire around here and didn't have the longevity. Maybe if you have super duper tire upgrades, then tire wear upgrades, then maybe that's something that you can contemplate. Maybe that's what the Ferrari's got. Bottas is currently in third, so doing a great job for Alfa Romeo. And it's been solid pretty much so far in the first 3 races. I think he's had a top 10 finish in every race so far, and not far behind him is Mick Schumacher. Once again, back, and this is lap 10 now. So I've spent, a good 5 to 6 laps trying to get past my teammate, and it's all due to this wet setup. I just can't get near him on the straights. But through the corners, he's got nothing. And then he locks up again into that same corner, and finally, either he decides, look, I'm not going to fight this anymore. I think I've pissed him off enough. But I get through and can actually start to try and get after some of these other cars. But, you know, we're not done yet because we got these straights, and the amount of pace I was lacking. I mean, he would have started almost close to a second down, and he's dragging me back again. But luckily, I was just like, no, close the door, shut him out. You are not getting past me again. I'm not going to spend more time behind you. Lance Stroll has an issue, and his car is slowing, and that looks like it's terminal. And the Aston Martin is out of the race. So bad luck for the Canuck and son of owner of the Aston Martin team.
Caution, caution.
So that's the last I see of my teammate. I started to make a bit of a gap on him, and I'm up into 12th now as everyone starts making their pit stops. Lewis Hamilton comes in. Pretty stock standard, in and out. Goes onto the hard tire, and pretty safe to say he's going to rejoin back where he was in third once everything sorts itself out. Sergio Perez keeps going for another lap, and then he comes in as well. But nothing is going to change. He also chucks the hard tires on, and Charles Leclerc takes the lead back of the race. My teammate then comes in. He also puts on the hard tires, so he's coming in before me. So I'm hoping that he's not going to undercut me and then get past again and then just completely really destroy the race for the team. We're trying to get our best ever finish, and getting stuck behind him again is not beneficial. I let Norris here go because he had superior pace to me, obviously, down the straight. I wasn't going to fight anyone on that straight because I just knew what position I was in. I'm up into 11th. I was 10th, and then I come in for my pit stop. So coming in straight away after my teammate, and we're also going to go onto the hard tires. I finally got this thing down. You got to hit that slightly before you actually get there. If you hit it when you get there, that pit stop line, then you are going to get like a poor entry. So you got to hit it just a couple of meters before you hit that line, and then you should get the purple one. I come out the pits, and that if you're running like I'm running, that pit assist where it can just spit you out, and you actually sometimes you can't actually stop the car in time for the corner. So that's what, because the exit is so late on that one, you're already doing quite a rate of knots by the time you get to that first corner. I do get out in front of my teammate, and now with the extra lap fresher tires and having a little bit more of a gap on him now as I'm heading onto this straight, even though you can visually see that he is catching up to me, I am able to maintain that position. And now, as you just saw go off screen, there's about 3 or 4 cars ahead of me in this big fight between Kevin Magnussen, Daniel Ricciardo, Ocon, and Gasly. So they're all dicing for position, and the more they dice, the closer I get, because they're just going to continue to hold each other up, and I've got relatively clear air in front of me up until them. So it's going to bring me and potentially my teammate into play as Kevin Magnussen tries to make a move down the straight on Daniel Ricciardo, and Ricciardo holds it around the outside and maintains the position. Magnussen's not done though. He goes up the inside, and there's contact. No damage done. And Ricciardo gets back in front. We're now riding on board with Ocon, and this 4 are in pretty even cars. Well, you would think the Alpines probably got the advantage. But due to those wing changes that Ocon and Gasly had at the beginning of the race, they find themselves mired back here in probably places that they shouldn't be. This will be tasty. Ocon and Gasly fighting for positions. Best of friends, those two. So a little opinion on the track. I really enjoyed this revised version of the Albert Park circuit. I think that all the reprofiling of the corners made it a much more enjoyable track to drive. I've always been a fan of it. It's not my most favorite track, but it is a track that I do enjoy racing, and I think that the reprofiling of the corners has only improved it greatly, and yeah, way faster, way more fun to drive. So we're on board with Magnussen now, trying to stay with Daniel Ricciardo. I feel like Ricciardo was the one that was holding everyone up, but seemed to just have the pace through all the right areas that no one could really make a move on him. And I am getting close. As you can see, I just flash into view in the background, and every time we get to a corner now, I'm just popping into view. Except for that one. Good call. But yeah, like, it seems like down the straights, Magnussen's able to really get up close to Danny, and then it's through all the corners and everything where he has the advantage and under traction, where Magnussen's tried to make a few moves, but then coming out of the corner, the McLaren just holds position, gets the better grip, and gets away. So I do feel like it's kind of the situation that I'm experiencing with having a bit more aero on it with the setup, that if you can have it through the corners, that you get enough of an advantage out of the corners to maintain it on the straights. Once you have a bit of a flow, a bit of a rhythm, and you can maintain a pretty consistent gap. Obviously, he's not going to have as much aero as I've got on. Magnussen goes for another move, you see, again, and the McLaren just gets away. Obviously, there was a bit of a mistake there, but just can't seem to make it stick. And now we got Gasly trying to go up alongside Ocon into this second to last turn and makes the move stick. So the Alpine kind of out of position and getting stuck in this little group of cars and falling down, and Ocon's coming back against Gasly, and Gasly locks up and goes off. Spew City for the AlphaTauri driver, especially against his old mate Ocon, and I pick up a position. Just going to skip a few laps here, and you see that I'm just slowly but surely edging my way closer to this pack. And we're only coming down to the last few laps here, 5 laps to go, and once again Magnussen trying to get a move done on Ricciardo, and Ocon's in amongst it as well now, and now I'm right on the back of it as well. That 3 wide into turn 1 really gave me a good boost to get straight up on the back of these guys, and now I'm able to try and challenge for a position against Ocon and give him a bit of grief, and also try and maybe separate some of these guys from the pack. You know, I need to take away Ocon's DRS in a way, because once they get in that train, I don't have the aero. I'm really draggy. The car's already draggy, and as I've harped on about, I've got that wet setup. It's just not helping me. Perez has an issue, and the Red Bull is slowing, and in the same spot as Stroll, and lots of smoke, big engine failure, and the Red Bull power unit gives up, and Perez is out, and that's another position gained. So as we pass Perez, I am conscious that there is only 4 laps to go, but I don't want to just send it when these guys are dicing with each other a lot. I know I have the pace through a lot of these corners on them, And eventually one of them's going to make a mistake or something's going to happen. An opportunity is going to present itself and I'm going to be able to make a move. So trying to be patient. See there, Ocon making the mistake. And then along the straight, blah, like they're just gone. I got nothing. But then once we get through all these more high aero spots, we can start to look at. I have to back out of that one. I didn't have enough of a dive opportunity there on Ocon to get through. I feel like that was a accident waiting to happen. See this? Just almost have to get out the way in some of the apexes. I have to really back out and step out of the way so I don't make contact. Ocon goes wide again out of that corner and same old story. Just cannot stay with him on the straights. So after my pit stop, I had taken some wing off to try and minimize that, and I do make a move. And I felt that one was fair and clean. I was up the inside at a good spot, and he just turned in on me and damaged his wing. That seems to be a little habit of theirs going into that corner. My teammate did it in practice, and then Latifi did it. Guan Yu Zhou did it at a different point of the track, and now Ocon's done it. And all of them have resulted in wing damage. 3 out of 4 for them and not me. Magnussen makes a mistake going wide out of that corner, and I'm able to pick up another position. So I've caught this group now, and I only have one more to go, and this could be the best finishing position so far in this career mode. Here comes Leclerc, rounding the last corner, and he is going to win the Melbourne Grand Prix. Followed by Sainz, so it's a Ferrari 1-2. But we're not done yet. We are still on the last lap, and we are right up on Daniel Ricciardo. But this is where Old Faithful wet setup, high downforce is just undoing me. Magnussen tries to get back through, but as I did to my teammate earlier, I shut the door on him, squeeze him on the inside of that apex, and even then, straight down the straight, and he dive bombs me from way back, and I wasn't going to give that one up. And I think something flew off the car there. I don't know if it was me or him, but one of us picked up a little bit of wing damage, I think. But that's it. I can't get up to Daniel Ricciardo. And all in all, a good race, I think. Probably could have got in front of Ricciardo if it wasn't for my teammate holding me up for all the, all those laps, 5-6 laps that he did. 13th position. Max Verstappen gets driver of the day, just due to the fact that he started so far back.
Take the win for Ferrari today. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out of the track was: speed. It sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Looking at the podium, you can see that red suit, familiar to fans across the globe. A world-class win for a world-class team. Ferrari, do it again.
So guys, Ferrari wins, but as you can see on the screen there, since the last update, there's been a real big issue. I don't know if it's just on the PS4, but all these cutscenes, and it only gets worse. Like, so the next few races, you're going to see it a lot more. But these cutscenes, there's this flicker that's come in, and it's a problem. It's a known problem. I've looked it up online. I'm not the only one experiencing it. I thought it was my TV, like maybe my HDMI cable wasn't plugged in properly, but it's actually an issue with the game since the update. So 13th position, Leclerc wins the race. Sainz and Hamilton 2nd and 3rd. Verstappen comes through from 15th to 4th, and likewise George Russell 13th to 5th. Good result for Bottas in the Aston Martin. I'm down 13th, Deleta 15th, and similar best lap times. I feel like I was slightly faster than him, as we saw, and good gains from us due to a lot of the retirements that we had and some of the damages and guys taking their wings off on the side of my car. Verstappen leads the championship by 9 points on Charles Leclerc, and he is followed by Sainz and then the 2 Mercedes. We both move up in the standings, and that should put us above the Williams, and it does. And not too bad. We're where we're expected to be. Now we're going into my flashbacks. This was in practice. That's so good to see. I love watching that. The wheel coming off. That was a pretty heavy one. This was in the second practice session. Just getting too much on the throttle there, coming onto the straight. Same happens here. Just no grip and just do a bit of wing damage. Because it's practice, I just go back and wind that back. This was at the beginning of the race. Just got caught out in the braking zone, and I wasn't going to restart because of that. That was Zhou Guan Yu, like there. Like there was no, he damaged my floor. Another one. This couple of times I really messed up the first, coming out of the first corner, trying to grab too much throttle. So I did actually wreck it a few times, and that was that when I got up to the back of the pack there. I got caught out by Magnussen. Actually came across in that attempt, and then he also, don't think he spun me there. I think I actually just spun on my own. So that was the race, guys. If you liked the video, remember to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm trying to shorten these slightly, but they are quite hard to shorten with everything that goes on in them, because I want to get through the game. But I'm hopefully appearing to get better at doing these and editing and putting these together, and I'm glad that some of the bugs have been ironed out so I can get some of these cutscenes in. Next race is going to be in Imola, which is something I'm looking forward to because I haven't raced that track in a very, very long time. It hasn't been on F1 games or the F1 calendar for many, many years. So it's a track that I remember fondly. I really used to enjoy racing at Imola on all versions of the games that I've played in the past growing up as a kid. So really happy to see that it's back. Also just going to mention that I'm going to do another series of videos along with this My Team Career video series, and that is to do a My Team Career mode. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to manage the team, and I'm going to enter a manufacturer that's kind of aligned with one of the engine suppliers, but I'm going to simulate all the races. So all the practice sessions, I'll do the simulated development stuff, and then I'm going to simulate the qualifying, simulate the races, and just see what happens, and just see how the championships develop. And I'll do those videos as a season per video type video, where we'll basically wrap up the entire season in one video. I've already started it, so it's already underway, and I'm already preparing to put together the first video. I have a manufacturer that I've chosen and aligned with one of the current engine suppliers, so look out for that soon. But that's today's video, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one at Imola.